Storygram Network.
Hosting for this podcast is generously provided by Transistor at transistor.fm.
Hello, we are the Sonoma Community Center podcast, a place of creativity, connection, and community. We highlight the artists, teachers, and the community that come through the doors of our historic brick building, often called the heart of Sonoma. We share local tips and shout outs to our home, Sonoma Valley. And we are your host, Molly Spencer.
Gerardo Diaz.
We are the engagement team of the Sonoma Community Center. Whoop, whoop. Good morning, G.
Good morning, Molly and Takashi.
Yeah, man behind the scenes, Takeshi is over here. Thank you for Takeshi. Big shout out for making us sound decent.
This guy's always open. You know, anytime you're like, hey, Takashi, we got this thing going on. You want to come? He's like, yeah.
Yeah, you need recording, podcast recordings, any of your recording needs, mixing needs. That's Takeshi Lewis.
If you're filming a movie and you need a microphone guy,
that's Takeshi Lewis.
Yes, sir.
Glitch unicorn. Anyway, here we are, Gerardo. It is August morning, and it's not bad now, but I'm telling you, I called it on our last podcast. First week of school, hot AH.
Yeah. Super, super hot, melting.
Right?
And of course, my son is like, my 6, 7 years like, hey, you want to go to the pool? I'm like, sure, let's go. Why not? I can never say no to pool, to be honest.
Wait, you did say that. Yes, that's a whole nother conversation about your idea with pools, but I'm with you.
Oh, yeah,
I'll throw my suit in.
I see what you... Yeah. The butt juice water, I call it.
This is not starting off in a good way. We might need Takeshi's services to really cut this. Yeah. But first things, hey, so special guest this morning.
Yeah.
It's you.
It's me.
Gerardo Diaz.
One-eye guy. Yeah, one-eye G.
I am super excited. I know. So this might get a little off track, folks, but here we are in August, and the reason we're kind of... Not only the reason is you always have great stories. So I'm super excited too. And I'm also going to work on not saying super so much. That's my repetitive word that I found that I said all the time. It could be turned into a drinking game. How much times I say super fun.
We'll be drunk here.
Today, we're going to talk about your story.
My story.
Where you came from, how you got here, ties to the community center, all of it. And one of the reasons is we have Hispanic Heritage Month coming up in September. Am I right?
Yep, for sure. We have a busy month. So you want me to start just telling you the things that we're... So my name is Jose Gerardo Diaz Lerma. That's my full name. And I'm from Mazatlán, Sinaloa.
Yeah. You were born there?
I was born in Mazatlán.
And just like thinking on the back, like before you were there, is your family like generations from the same area in Mazatlán?
So my grandpa descended from Germany. So like his parents are all from Germany.
Is that a big German contingent kind of down there?
Mazatlán has a big German community too. If you guys don't know, the beer Pacifico, it was actually 3 German brothers who funded.
No.
Yeah.
I feel like you mentioned that, but I learned something new every single time.
And also banda, like the music that we have, is a mixture between like Mexican music and polka and all
polka.
that stuff. Yeah.
I could hear the ties.
Yeah, they have like the tuba, boom, boom, you know.
Yeah, you can hear in my neighborhood, I can hear that a lot. Yeah. It was funny. We'd have like little Switzerland down the street with polka in the day, and then it's lively, you know. Didn't you work at Little Switzerland?
I did. I washed dishes there for them. You know, they were pretty cool people too. Yeah. I think they were Portuguese, I believe. The owner.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, I'll have to find out.
The son is a famous here. I think he sells houses.
Dan Castellan. Yeah. I'll have to ask him. He was actually on our podcast. That's a fun episode, listening to him, how he got screamed to come here and be filmed. So small ties. It's a small town. But tell us more. Tell us more about home.
So I grew up there with my grandma and my grandpa, which was really cool. 2 of the best people. And my grandma used to have a little tiny, how would you say it, like a shed where she used to sell food right in front of the Pacifico Brewery. It was a block away from my house, the big Pacifico Brewery.
The brewery was pretty established at that time, right?
Yes. So my grandma had like super busy all the time. She used to sell food, shave ice and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I grew up there with her, like selling. And then like on the weekends, she used to like sell tamales. And I used to go, like I was like 5 and I used to go in the streets and sell tamales. I'm surprised nobody's kidnapped me, and sold my organs or something.
Wait, were you that cute?
No. I was like a little chubby kind of kid all the time.
Oh, no, you'd be cute to steal. Yeah, Sorry, that's terrible.
I
know. We're going to have to get little pictures of little G.
I do have a really good story. So when I was little, I was always been like almost like Daniel the Menace, I was always like really always doing tricks and stuff. So I remember my cousin.
This is reminding me of your son. We'll get there.
Yeah. So I remember me and my cousin were playing and we saw the guy who delivered bread. In Mexico, they have a truck who delivers all these breads to all these stores.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, the concha, so I want to eat a little piece of bread. And I remember my cousin's like, go. So I went in the truck and I went all the way in the back to get the bread. And the guy closed the door on me. He didn't know I was in there. He just closed the door and took off. So my cousin is running, like yelling. I can hear her yelling, like, stop. So then my cousin goes to my aunt. He's like, hey, he went in there to get a bread and shut the door. Now so then my uncles, they had to go and talk to the person. He's like, hey, what deliveries? Where is he going? What's the route? So they were just looking for the guy until they find me. Man, I got a beating that day from everyone. I got a beating from my aunt. I got a beating from my grandma. Uh-huh. And then I went and cried to my grandpa. And my grandpa slapped me too.
So actually,
my belly was
temporarily stolen.
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
That scares the bejesus out of everybody.
For me, it was a joyride. I was eating bread the whole time I was in there. Every time he opened the door, I hide in the back. I'm like, I don't want to get caught.
I don't know why this is feeling like you familiar with Curious George stories. Curious George the monkey. Yeah, Gerardo.
That's
that
me.
Sounds like you.
I feel now that I look back, I feel bad for my grandma because they switched me. I think in 3rd grade, they switched me like 4 times in a different school. Because I just,
really
I was a menace. Yeah. I used to bring like water guns and then shoot at the boat when they were hot. And the boats used to explode.
Well, I don't think you were alone. I'm not going to name any names because I'm going to have him on a future podcast and he can tell the story. But right here at the community center, when it housed the boys club, before it was even the Boys and Girls Club, there's a couple of brothers that grew up around the store corner. Same menace community center, shooting out light bulbs, things they would do the windows. I'm like, oh, now it comes out, all the bad stories. But boys are boys, kids are kids. And one thing that I'm super familiar is, I don't know if everybody knows this around here, or has ever listened to our podcast before. Maybe they'll find out. You love food.
I do. And it's because of my grandma.
Because of your grandma.
Yeah, my grandma was really heavy on food and she never played around when it comes to dinners. There was like big dinners. When we had money, there was times where we didn't have money. And one of the things that I always said, and I always tell this story, is one of my neighbors, she knew when we didn't have any money, we wouldn't come out of the house. And her house, her kitchen, it was like right next to maybe my grandma's patio. So we used to go to sleep early because we didn't have anything to eat.
Yeah.
So I used to smell the chorizo. She used to cook chorizo. And I was just like, oh, chorizo. And I remember my grandma was like, go to sleep. Tomorrow will be a different day. And I remember hearing my neighbor calling my grandma. My grandma's name was Amalia. She's like, Amalia, send Gerardo to come and eat chorizo. And you too. And my grandma was so proud. She was like, no. Like, you go. I'll stay here. And I didn't want to go because she wouldn't eat anything. So I'm like, no. I'm like, let's go.
We've both been invited.
Yeah, I know. So I used to go eat a little bit and then save some for her. And then I used to bring it to her. But that's why chorizo for me is one of the best things because it reminds me of, her name was Rosario. We used to call me Chara. So Chara was like, she was the lady, man.
Is she still down there or was she?
Yeah, she's still down there. She was young. She actually was my mom's age they were friends with my mom, pretty much. So
now, is your grandmother still alive?
No, she left.
Okay.
Yeah, my grandma had a stroke here. Really funny. My grandma was one of those.
Funny.
Well, it was really funny that they told her she would never walk or speak again.
Okay.
Here.
Yeah.
And she spent like 3 months here, and I remember she just wanted to go back to her home because where she lived, she used to have mango trees, guava trees, and every day at 5 a.m. in the morning, she used to get up and water everything. So she missed that routine.
Yeah.
So we took her back, and guess what? She started walking and talking again.
Of course.
With no medicine, nothing. She pretty much went down there to die. That's what she wanted. She wanted to die in her home. But I think she survived like 20 more years after.
20?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. There's something to be said of just being where you want to be. Where you got to do it on your own time. She's like, my card is not up.
Yeah.
I'm not done.
Yeah, she was pretty cool. I didn't get to say goodbye to her, but it was really fun. When my cousin, when she died, they went through her stuff, and her Bible, the only picture she had in there, it was my picture when I was a little kid.
So you really were a cute little kid.
Well, the thing is, when we didn't have any money, I used to go and work and try to bring some food back. And then we needed money. She used to make like empanadas or like tamales. And I was the guy who was out there selling it for, to make that money.
Yeah.
So I was there,
Your grandma sounds just amazing.
She was pretty cool. My grandma never believed even though it was my fault all the time, she never believed anybody except me. She was like, no, I believe him.
Does she have a little nickname for you?
My nickname is Hera. Because it's short for Gerardo, is Hera. So, Hera, yeah.
Yes.
So,
okay. Get ready for that.
She was pretty cool. And I tell you, when I came to the United States, she actually had a visa to come in, but she decided to jump the border with me because I didn't have one.
Oh, you came with your grandma?
Yeah.
Backing up, what brought you to the moment where it's like, it's time to go, I'm going to go up to the States?
I think it was mostly her that she was tired of me. It was too much. It wasn't her responsibility at all. In Mexico, it's really hard to get a job when you're in that 50s. So, and she was just like, I can't do this. I just want to rest. Like, she had to work. She had to get a job so she can take care of me because she couldn't make it with what she get from my grandpa. She had to get another income just to take care of me, so pay for stuff, you know? So I think for her, it was like, I'm done. Like, this is not mine. This is your mom's responsibility. So let's
I'm sure that's not an easy decision. I mean, there's a lot of grandparents that are raising children, especially everywhere. You get older, you get tired, and it's kind of like your time. So I'm sure that wasn't an easy decision for her.
When she did bring me here, I think half her life also died because I wasn't there for her anymore.
Yeah.
She used to write me because back then there was no cell phone. So she used to write me letters all the time. I used to get letters from her. She was pretty cool.
How old were you when you decided
I came here?
to...
So they left me when I was 2. So I started with her when I was 2. And then she brought me here when I was almost 10.
Okay. Because now, time for you to get a job.
Yeah.
Understand the opportunities and that sort of thing.
Yeah. I remember selling everything. We had all these stuff for school and stuff. So no, I didn't sell them. We just gave them away. We gave them away. And we're like, oh, yeah, we're going to the United States. We thought it was for sure. It was really funny. So when we got to the border, I remember that we needed to cross. And I remember we crossed the first. It was super easy back then. We crossed the border and we're in this little shopping center, and it was a kiosk right there, and we were sitting there waiting for the coyote to come and get me. And I remember I was telling my grandma, I'm like, my mom lives over there. Let's go over there. I was so excited that I wanted to see my mom that I thought my mom lived and was in Nogales, so that means Arizona. My mom was in California.
So you crossed over in Arizona.
We crossed in Arizona, and when we crossed, I was so anxious. I'm like, my mom.
I mean, how would you know? You're 10, you're 9. Yeah. You haven't seen anything beyond the world of your own little world, your own little village. So it's right there.
Yeah. I thought it was just right there. I'm like, Grandma, let's go. She lives down the streets there, you know?
Yeah.
And then my grandma was like, she's like, come down. They're going to get us.
You know how kids are when you're traveling. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet?
And then
they have no concept.
We end up getting
how far things are apart.
We end up getting caught. So, and then they send us back. We crossed 3 times and they caught us, and then we went back. And at the last one, we didn't have any money. And I remember my grandma was like, we don't have any money to cross. Like, we don't have any money to pay the coyote. And it was only like $150 back in that time.
Okay.
So.
Just like the 80s?
90s. And I remember my grandma, there was a neighbor, there was some people there. And she's like, hey, can you guys do me a favor? Can you guys let us borrow your kitchen so we can make tamales? So we can sell them in the line outside the border. And we can get across. And they're like, yeah, sure. So they let us borrow their kitchen, and then they gave us money so we can make tamales. And my job was just to go out there and sell the tamales to the tourists and people who are walking around for, I think it was like 2 for $1 or something back then.
Yes.
You know? So we made enough money to get for the coyote, and that's how we crossed too.
That being said, I'm sure it's not your own story, but that if it used to be easier to cross, I guess what I'm trying to say is just the determination if you're doing it at least 3 times. Like that did not deter your grandma. It didn't deter you just keep on going until it actually works.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, it got harder. Like the first time was we just opened a fence.
Yeah.
And we just walked into the United States, and that was it. The second time we actually had to jump the fence, a big fence.
You and your grandma?
Me and my grandma.
Oh.
But for me, when I was 10, for me, it was just like a playground. My grandma actually hurt her knees. She had to get surgery. It was pretty bad for her.
I can't imagine jumping a fence at this age.
Yeah. So, and then we took a bus, and then we took the airplane. We landed in San Francisco, and then one of my uncles picked us up and drove us to my mom's house, which was here in Sonoma at Waterman Street by Parsons.
Yeah. Right.
And
I know
we
exactly
came,
where
and
that is.
I remember my uncle telling my mom, is like, oh, they didn't make it. Sorry. They went back to Mexico. And she was crying, and we're like, we're here.
Oh,
that's a
I know. Dirty surprise. But that's kind of true to your personality. You must get that from your uncle. You love to make a good dry joke.
But so we made it.
How did they pick out Sonoma?
It was
like
funny.
Your mom
so my mom and my uncle came first.
Okay.
And for some reason they my uncle was in a church, and there was like I don't know what kind of church it was, Christian church, I think. And his congregation was here in Sonoma.
Okay.
So there used to be people who used to go from here to Mazatlán. And then when my uncle wanted to come here, they're like, oh, let's go to Sonoma. There's the congregation there. So he came to Sonoma and brought my mom.
Got it.
And that's how we landed here in Sonoma, which was beautiful. I remember.
Yeah. What was your first impression?
It was so different.
Yeah.
No friends. That was the only thing, because I had a lot of friends in Mazatlán.
Of course.
It's so different. Like the vibes though, like here in your neighborhood, nobody talks to each other. Nobody knows. It's just like super plain. It's just super bored.
Yeah.
Mexico, where I'm from, like, anybody around their neighborhood, and then you're playing with the neighbors. Like you're outside.
You grew up together. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then I come here, and my mom was like, no, don't go out, and it was like, just stay home. And I remember the first time she took me to Lucky's. It was Albertson back then. It was Albertson, I believe. Lucky's Albertson.
And you know that it's not Lucky's, right? It's not Lucky's.
No.
For years, I thought it was Lucky's with an S.
Is it Lucky?
It's Lucky. Yeah. Yeah. I am sticking to the same with you, thinking it was Lucky's for a million years.
Yeah.
And then I swear, and then my kids told me and stuff, and they're all, it's Lucky, Mom. Lucky, it says it on the bag. And I'm all, me and you and everybody has been calling it Lucky's for years. So I'm thinking there's some kind of game amongst grocery store owners, and
probably
Mr. Lucky won it back for Mr. Albertson.
In Petaluma, they still have Albertsons, I believe. Or down south, I think in LA, they still have Albertsons.
There's a few Albertsons going around. Yeah.
So I come, I remember my mom buying fruit rolls for me, and I'm like, what is this stuff? This is delicious.
Yeah.
And then I go home and start watching the Power Rangers. I'm like, what? What's going on?
You are now in American culture.
Yeah. It was just a whole different world. Remember when I went to school, the first day of school, and I was walking in, and then Phil, I'd never been.
What school was that?
Flowery.
Oh, man. You can walk right there.
Yeah. I walked down this Flowery, and I remember I was kind of like, I didn't understand. Everything I hear was like, blah, 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 right?
You only spoke Spanish.
And this kid is like, hey, you're new? I'm like, yeah. He's like, come in line and get your breakfast. I'm like, breakfast? What are you talking about?
Free breakfast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, you get in this line, you get a ticket, and you get a breakfast. And I'm like, no way. Get in the line. I remember I got a bagel with cream cheese and a box of chocolate milk.
chocolate milk.
I was living.
That was
like,
heaven,
so we get this every day. He's like, yeah, and if you bring 10 cents, you can get an extra bagel. And I'm like, 10 cents? Man, I was looking like I was like a metal detector in my house, man. Just
in the car with change and that kind of stuff.
Just grabbing all
I do
stuff,
remember
man.
being tempted by when I grew up in the South too. I mean, different story, hippie parents, but when I saw like, I actually wanted some of the food they had at school. Now I can't imagine, right? But I was like, chocolate milk. You can get chocolate milk with your lunch. Like my parents would never. Oh, is it saying rice milk?
I remember kids throwing away their chocolate milk. And I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You know, me coming from Mexico where we didn't get breakfast. Right. It was weird. Like I remember one time, my grandpa be like, hey, come and get, because my grandma and my grandpa didn't live together for a long time. So...
Were they together but didn't live together?
Yeah, so it was a weird thing because
that's
what
not
happened,
weird. It's marriage, isn't it?
It was mostly because my grandma, her father came from Haiti. So my grandma was dark, Afro, you name it. Mm-hmm. And my grandpa was like a 6'5", blue eye.
German heritage, yeah.
So and then I guess in that time, his parents already had him paired with another rich family because my grandpa came from money.
Oh, wow.
So they had like wood shops. Like they used to do furniture. That was their business. So he was already, I don't know how you say it. They had like this marriage where they already had it.
And like an arranged marriage?
Arranged marriage, yes. So and then, but my grandma was a beautiful woman, a young woman. And my grandpa saw her and was like, no, I want to marry this woman. So they did get married, had like, I think 12 to 14 kids.
Wait, so your mom has about 12 siblings? Yeah, 12.
Yeah, and then two
and I like that it's
three of them died in that time.
Yeah.
3 of them died because they didn't have money because his family went like, oh, you marry this woman, then you're out.
You're cut off?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he pretty much was cut off, and then there was a time where I think he went back to them, and they're like, hey, if you come back, you can bring her. So what he did is he left her in the house where they built. And he told her, he's like, hey, I'm going to go back to my parents, but you will get money. Every week, I'll bring you money.
Well, that's a good man.
So, he never, so I remember, but they always used to fight. It was funny. Like, my grandma used to fight. It was like, don't talk to your grandpa. He used to tell me, like, don't go to his house and get your breakfast. Because sometimes I used to go to my grandpa's house, and the school was right next to each other, right next to. So I used to go and get breakfast. My grandpa used to, like, get up in the morning, make little beans with eggs for me. My grandpa used to add milk on his beans.
In his beans?
It was weird, yeah.
Or just weird. Like on top of it, like a cereal?
No, his beans, like he used to cook milk with beans. It was weird, but they were delicious. They were nice and creamy.
Like creamy?
Yeah, they were nice and creamy. And sometimes he'd be like, he used to tell me the day before, he's like, hey, don't come to my house today. Just go to the store and tell them that you want your breakfast. Get a torta and they used to serve you the soda in a bag back in that time. Because you had to pay for the bottle. If you want the bottle, you had to pay like extra money.
Yeah.
So they used to give it to you in a bag. So I used to do that. And then my grandma used to be like, no, don't go and get your lunch, your breakfast with your grandpa. So I didn't go. And
she's very proud.
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah.
So my grandpa in the afternoon, when he used to go to the store and pay for whatever meal, the guy's like, oh, your grandson didn't show up today. He's like, what? He didn't get his breakfast? And he's like, no. So and then he used to go knock on the door on my room, my classroom. And he's like, hey, teacher, can I talk to Gerardo? He didn't have his breakfast, so he needs to eat right now. So he used to take my breakfast, and I used to eat it right next to him. Outside the classroom.
Oh, my gosh. So let me ask you this. Is breakfast your important meal?
Yes.
Is it still your most important meal?
Yes.
Never skip a breakfast?
Nope. And it has to be a big breakfast. It's funny because we never had lunch.
Okay.
In our culture, lunch, it wasn't that heavy. It's mostly breakfast and dinner.
Okay. Like an early dinner?
Yep.
Okay.
But no, it's always late for us. For some reason, it's like 8 o'clock or 9. Sometimes we end up eating.
Yeah.
It's weird. Super weird.
Take that, fasting culture.
Yeah. So lunch wasn't big for us. So we started taking lunch here.
Working, you know. And
so lunch for us is like here. Here we start taking lunch because of the work and stuff. But
that's really funny that you are now the lead of a segment called "What's for Lunch."
What's for lunch?
Really, it's what's for breakfast, which I missed the other day.
Oh, the other day we made machaca. I think Josh got a food coma in the morning. I don't think he ever had like a big breakfast like that. It was like eggs, machaca, beans, and tortillas. So he's like,
I would go into a coma too. I reserve those for Sundays. Sunday breakfast is where it's at. But
yeah, we call brunch. I think,
or when Gerardo cooks around here.
Yeah, in my house, breakfasts are super big.
Do you cook everybody breakfast before they go to school?
Yes, I do.
Did they like kind of pass on to your teens, and that's what they?
And the only reason that I do it is because I want to make sure that when they're old, they do that for the kids too.
I
they
love
remember that their father used to get up in the morning and make chorizo because that's one of their favorite things to eat.
Chorizo, I'm assuming, is yours too. Just from chorizo, like the smell. Yep. What are some of the foods that growing up that are just memorable for you that you still make to this day?
And it's
kind of a family.
Chorizo is one of the things that I do. Machaca, we do smoked marlin too.
Okay.
That's what we grew up eating. Quequis is almost like crepes, but Mexican.
Uh-huh.
So what we do is put oil on the pan, and then they put the batter in there, and they stretch it really thin.
Yeah.
And then we put condensed milk on it, and then fruit, and we roll it up.
Oh, you haven't made those yet.
No, but I want to. I've been meaning to do it for you guys. They're delicious. My grandma used to make them all the time, so those are what my kids like. And then we do dirty beans, what we call it, dirty beans.
It's not your grandpa's milky beans.
No. This one is my grandma. My grandma's beans too. It's traditional from Mazatlán too.
Uh-huh.
And it's a mixture of bacon, chorizo, pork lard, and then sardine juice, the tomato juice from the sardines.
Oh, okay.
And then pickled jalapenos.
Yeah.
And then 3 types of cheese.
When are we gonna have dirty beans?
Yeah, they're delicious. I remember I did those for Sonoma Academy one day.
Uh-huh.
And they were looking at them like, oh, beans. And then they had a little taste, and I can see them going back and back and back.
Yes.
And they're like, who made these beans? I'm like, I did. He's like, best beans I ever had. Like,
exactly.
So much flavor.
That's better than pork and beans.
Yeah. You know, I grew up with like my aunts that cooked, so it was like heavy. And that's why when I cook, I want to cook for you guys things that I had in Mexico, like real things, not your commercial Mexican food that you guys get here.
I got it. And there's some things that you have made that I've never had before. Changes the palate. I was out with my friend turned 50, traditional Mexican family. She's like, "Where's the cheese on the tacos?" I'm like, "No, this is not how it's working here. It's not how it works anymore."
Yeah.
No cheese.
Yeah,
Don't even ask.
I always, when I create something, when I make something for you guys, I want to make sure that you guys have something that you won't find it in the stores or something, you know, or like in another
I never had the
ceviche.
You know? So Gerardo, you here are, in my opinion, like master of so many ceviches, sold out classes. Keep trying to get him to bring them back. But the kind of ceviche I had never had, a couple of them, was the ones with carrots, which is traditional from Mazatlán, right?
Yes.
Delicious.
Yes, I love that.
And then let's get into your other passion for fishing. But real briefly, what is it? Chiquiles? That's a breakfast. I'm such a white girl here. What's the scallops?
Oh, the scallop.
Oh.
Yeah. Callo de hacha.
Yeah.
We call them. So those are the...
With the chile water.
Yep. Oh, aguachile.
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 Oh, folks, it's so good.
Yeah, one of my favorite things. So it's pretty much a Mexican scallop. Mm-hmm. They're a little bit more softer, and sometimes they're a little bit more firm too. But once you brine it with lime juice and your favorite chili that you want, you can add any chili you want. That's what they call it, aguachile, which means chili water.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much a lot of lime juice with a lot of chili. And man, I'm
not a spicy person, and this is my favorite. Like, I'm requesting that for my birthday next year right now.
And one sold, you got it. One of the things when you eat aguachile, it's really funny. A lot of people like to brine their either shrimp or their scallop for like hours. No, you brine it for only like 20 minutes, because what it is your shrimp is going to release a lot of water too, and it's going to just add water to your lime, and it just doesn't taste as fresh if you just
it's already doing its job, right?
So all you do is you cut some cucumbers, some red onions, put it on a plate, spread it out, put your scallop or your shrimp on top, and just add your chili water on top of the shrimp, and only let it for 20 minutes, and that's it. Start eating it fresh.
So you're saying I should make my own?
No. I'll make it for you. It'll be my pleasure.
That's like corn. I grew up with this family that overcooked a lot of things. And corn, I swear all the kids had to, get out there, shuck the corn. And they would put that thing on. They would basically put it in boiled water for, seems like an hour. And then I meet my mother-in-law. She's like, you only need to put that in for like 3 minutes, right? And I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I think corn only should be like 15 minutes.
Yeah,
or something,
exactly. It wasn't that long. You don't need it very long.
Yeah.
And it's even better on the grill. And it's so delicious now.
Delicious.
The patch corn.
They got all these way to make corn now. It's unbelievable, But my favorite one's still lime with like cheese, sour cream and stuff, you know, and then your little tahini.
Traditional.
Oh.
What do you call that? Because I love those.
So
it's
sometimes
like a street corn, but
street corn, they call them mesquites sometimes, you know, but I just call it dame queso con crema y elote. That's it. You know, they got all these fancy words for the stuff, man. Just call it simple stuff, man.
All right.
But yeah.
Hey, Gerardo, how are you?
Pretty good. Hey, you know about the subscription? How does it work?
That's a good question. So, subscription to the Sonoma Community Center podcast means really no commitment on your side. What came up, I was thinking about this a long time ago, is people typically tend to think that a subscription means that you have to pay for something or we're capturing an email or information like that. But that's simply not the case.
So you mean I can just click it and just watch your videos and I don't have to pay any money?
And you don't have to pay any money. Wow. Subscribing merely means that when the next time we have an episode, it will pop up wherever you're listening to episodes, be it Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. And what that means is it really just supports us and lets us know that we have listeners out there besides just downloading the podcast. So,
and it's just not subscribing, it's also liking it, right?
Liking it, but really that subscribe button means that we know that there's listeners out there.
Perfect.
I don't know if you've had this, but I have people that come up to me and say, hey, I listened to it.
I do.
But translating that into the subscribe button means that you're supporting the Community Center podcast, the artists, and everybody that comes through here and shares their story that we are always excited to share about.
Well, you guys are listening. Subscribe, please.
Yep.
Make our life easier, and we want to become popular, famous.
All right. Subscribe away. When you were here and you're growing up in Sonoma, and did you have to go back to Mexico? And just kind of like you're making friends here. You're growing up in Sonoma. You're kind of a Sonoma boy, really.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so I got here, you know, I had a lot of friends. I'm a friend kind of guy. And then I went back to Mexico when I was 21.
Okay, so
I
you
met
were
my
here
wife
all
by
through
phone.
your teenage years.
Yeah. So and then I met my wife by phone.
I want to hear that story of how you and Sonia
So
met.
I dialed the wrong number. Sonia answered, and I thought she was so sexy, her voice. And, you know, I'm like, oh. So I started talking to her.
She does have a great voice.
Yeah. So I started talking to her for a whole year. And back then we didn't have cell phones or anything, so we didn't know how we looked. We just sent a couple pictures of each other, and that was it.
Yeah.
And after a year, I remember I told my mom, I bought my ticket, and I told my mom, hey, I'm going to Mexico and marry this woman. And my mom was like, what? I'm like, yes, I am. See you later. So I took off.
Wow.
Met her and then asked her to marry me. She was going to law school at the time.
Yeah.
Down there. And she's like...
Is she from Mazatlán as well?
She's from Mazatlán too. So she said yes. I was happy. I was surprised too. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go back to the United States, make money, and then come back and marry you. And she's like, no. You stay here until I finish my 2 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's like, we'll get married. I don't need a fancy wedding. She's like,
smart. She's like, you're not leaving here.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right. So I stayed. We got married, and then I had to wait for her to finish her year of law school because she's like, you know what? My dad pays so much money for my education. I just don't want to leave it hanging like that. So I want to make sure he gets the diploma. So she did. So she finished. And then I'm thinking, man, this woman is going to be a lawyer. I can stay here and fish. I'm like, I'm staying here. That's it. That's my plan. I'm like, I'll take care of the kids. I go fishing. She'll go to whatever work. And then she got pregnant and she's like, I want to go to the United States. I'm like, God damn it. I'm like, no. Like, that's not my plan, woman, you know? She's like, I want to have my babies in the United States. I'm like, oh, bummer.
Reasoning behind that was better healthcare.
My wife has always been really heavy on education.
Yeah.
So she says that the United States will have better education than Mexico for her kids. Mm-hmm. And the other reason is that it's free.
Yes.
And Mexico is a lot of money.
Is that right?
Yes.
Even like in the primary grades and all of that?
You pay since you're in kindergarten.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you pay for your school, what's it called? Uniforms, your books, everything.
Yeah.
They never give you a free backpack over there. You will never get a free backpack. And if you don't pay your monthly, what's it called? For your school?
Yeah. Just an enrollment.
They don't let you in.
Huh?
They don't play around. Not like here, like if you go to the part, they're like, hey, let's talk to your parents. Maybe we can find financial aid for you guys.
Right.
You try to go in there and they stop you. They're like, no, and they tell you right in front of everyone that you didn't pay.
You can't afford it.
They shame you.
Yeah.
So she's like, I want my kids to have a really good education.
Yeah.
So I'm
I think that's somewhat, maybe they understand it when they're older, but definitely taken for granted of students over here in school. And,
although I have to tell you something though.
Yeah.
It's free until you start going to like college. It's really funny how the government works here because they'll give it to you for free the whole time. And then as soon as you get to college, it's like, well, we're going to cut you off now.
Well, they also, there is this conception, I don't know, I definitely believe in higher education to point as well. But then they're like, you have to pay all this money to go get this higher education. You don't really know if it's going to be better or not. Yeah. I definitely got disenchanted by that system. I'm not going to spend 20 years paying off something, it just wasn't for me. And that thing,
it makes no sense. They pay for your education. They put all this money into you and then they cut you off like that. It's like, dude, you're like the United States. This is your people who are going to grow up and take care of this country.
Well, it's another thing too. I mean, we could go down this road for sure, but why they're not promoting a more practical, learning a trade.
Yeah.
Why are we not learning a trade as well as maybe learning some things that aren't necessarily going to benefit you until you're paying for that higher education? You know what I mean? Like, okay, that's great. Now you're going to have to pay for more deep dive. And what about more trades that are going to open more jobs to what is happening and is current? So I don't know. That's
I have a friend who still owes like money from school, like 90,000 is crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, I'm still paying for it.
Takeshi's shaking his head over here. That he could have this big, huge soundboard, right? That expensive soundboard we talked about.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Either that or that.
Anybody wants to donate one of those things, Takeshi's here.
Exactly. This music room is yours.
We named it after you, man.
Yes, it's a Takeshi Lewis music room. Bye-bye, pianos. Bye-bye, new music program.
Yep.
Which is awesome. Hey, did you ever play any instruments or do any of that kind of stuff when you were young?
I grew up just doing a lot of sports. I did play a lot of sports. I was always into baseball. I love baseball.
Yes.
I love soccer and basketball. But it was really funny back then. And I was really good at all of it.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things where you came to the United States. You were undocumented. Back then I was undocumented. So it was really hard for me to do sports. It was kind of like a taboo thing where you don't talk about it. I went and did all these tryouts. I landed on the team and then they were like, yeah, can we have your social security number?
So how did you get around that?
No, we didn't. I never played. My mom is like, hey, stop doing that. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And I really wanted to play, but I couldn't just because that's social.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that's why there's a lot of like men's teams and outside teams, all kinds of teams that weren't like part of a school or anything or organization.
Mm-hmm.
But lucky enough, there's like Alvarado Fields and, there's places to play.
Yeah. I think it was funny because...
Did you ever play baseball out at Sonoma Developmental Center?
Yes, I did.
I think it was like the men's beer league. I think you might have played against my brother.
I played softball.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, on Sundays and Fridays and Tuesdays.
Yeah, definitely had some people
who was your brother?
Joe Sheddig. He played for like I think they called it the old guy beer league or whatever like that. But it was hardball. I don't think it wasn't softball.
Oh, okay.
And they played on Sundays out there. And then they had co-ed there for a while.
Yeah, they have co-ed. But it was actually Sundays. It was actually just guys, softball guys. It was just for guys.
It's sad that we can't take advantage of that field anymore.
They're playing over here at the Fields of Dreams.
Really?
Softball, yeah. The softball team is over here. I wanted to apply, but then I got this eye problem right now, and I can't apply. But
you want to share a little bit about that? You don't have to go into detail, but basically, Gerardo, Captain G is wearing a patch over his eye right now.
like a month ago, I remember we had a mound of dishes in my house, and Sonia, my wife, came in and she's like, "Hey, how come those dishes are not done?" And I looked at it and I say, "Hey," being the macho man that I am, I looked at her and say, "Man, don't wash no dishes, lady. If you want those dishes to be clean, we'll chop." And then I woke up the next day with a black eye and I can't see, so I don't know, Now I have to wear an eye patch.
This is the story he's been going with for quite some time. However, that's not the case. No, it's a medical thing.
I tell that to my family so they can hate my wife, for some reason.
Oh, you're so evil. Sonia, by the way, is amazing.
She's amazing.
And she works over at La Luz Center, and she's down the street right now. Actually, what's happening this morning in Sonoma is we have Ada Limon, right? The poet laureate of the United States. And so she's one of the first employees of Reader's Books here, which is great. Independent bookstore, one of the last. And anyway, they dedicated a bench down there for her. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Sonia, I had to say something about my wife that I always say. When I met my wife, she took me to a happy place. So every time I talk about it, I say, I'm going to my happy place, which is my wife.
Happy anniversary coming up here.
Yep. In August 27th.
How long have you been together?
It's going to be 18 years now.
Yeah. And you have 3 kids?
3 kids.
Okay.
We got a 17-year-old, and then we had a 14-year-old, and then we have a 7-year-old.
I'm familiar with Leo.
And then Joseph.
It sounds like a little mini you.
I think she's worse than me.
He's a little mischievous. Here he comes. When Leo's coming through.
Oh yeah,
but
that's why
it's fun mischief.
Him.
You know what I mean?
Him,
he's got that same personality as you, which is a really warm-hearted.
Yeah, that kid. Mischief. Every time he sees me, he runs and hugs me like if it was like the first time he ever sees me. He's amazing, that kid. And then we got my oldest, they're like, whatever, move around, old man,
Teenagers are so
mean. I still, they're pretty cool. They're pretty mellow kids, so
your daughter is something else.
Yeah, it was me and my wife.
When they talk about old souls, you know how she's definitely old soul for sure. Like your wife, kind of.
Yeah, she has the same personality as my wife. Me and Sonia, Sonia and I, we always want to do things, but we always want to do it with my kids,
Yes.
Because we don't know when we're not going to be here.
Yeah.
Life is too short.
I feel the same way. I'm like, let's do this now because we'll be stuck with each other after she leaves us. That's me and Jesse.
So we like to spend a lot of time with our kids. It's pretty cool.
That's amazing. Always Sonoma? Did you guys take them back?
They go back to Mazatlán every year with their grandparents, Sonia's father and mother.
Okay.
They go and take vacations down there for like 2 weeks. And every time they come back, they're like, "Oh, we want to go back."
They want to go back to Mazatlán.
Yeah, it's just beach over there,
which is amazing. So this is like a family dream. Yeah. Isn't it nice to kind of? This is how I see it. I might be making an assumption here that when you retire or whatever, you fish like your grandmother. You want to go back there, live your 20 years.
Yes.
Tell me about. On Mazatlán. Tell me about that island.
Not particularly to Mazatlán. I will go down there.
Yeah.
But for me, it should be a place where either there's a big lake or a river or a beach. So it doesn't really matter.
But warm.
Warm, yes.
Yeah.
And Sonia doesn't like the cold.
Yeah.
She hates the cold. But she also doesn't like places with beach. She's afraid of tsunamis.
Oh, really?
Yes.
See, my husband, who's a surfer, believe it or not, loves the ocean. They hate the sand. They will sit in the car. They'll drive the coast, look for the perfect beach break. That's where it's at. They'll travel over rocks. Freaking hates the sand.
They don't like
just
walking.
Everywhere. Blah, blah, blah. I get it and everything. And it's transferred down to my daughter, too. Like, but you got no problem getting in the water where there might be some sharks swimming around you out at Shark Pit, So different things. I'm like, I'll hang out on some sand as long as it's not blowing around.
My retirement, I always think about maybe Colorado because we actually like the forest too.
Oh, it's beautiful around here, and that's not that far. Actually, you can get, although it's a little cold.
I like to live in Tahoe too.
Tahoe's beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, Pyramid Lake. That's for me. Pyramid Lake because I go fishing there.
Yeah.
In Nevada.
Fishing spots. You grew up fishing. We had someone on our podcast earlier in January when we celebrated the 70th. Let's talk a little bit about Big Gordon, who's amazing, sweetest man ever. And he's your fishing buddy, right?
I can count my friends with my hand, and he's one of them. He's my first one. So he's pretty cool. Yeah, so when I started working with him, like I think it was 2002 or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know him. And he had a big boat, and he only used to take people he liked. He's really special. Gordon is a sweet man, and his crew, it runs tight. So
is it kind of the old school, taking the boat out to the sloughs and the Napa River here?
Yeah. It was Napa, sloughs, or Lake Berryessa.
Oh, okay.
So we used to troll after work. It was really
Fish
fun.
There?
Yeah.
Wow.
He used to have the boat right in the parking lot. So 3 o'clock, we're in his car.
Where were you working at that time?
El Pueblo in.
Oh, okay, yeah. El Pueblo is still here. It's a great little corner.
So we drove all the way to Lake Berryessa, and then we did, because, the sun goes down until like 9. So we had like 4 hours of just trolling and catching trout.
What's the biggest fish you ever caught, and what
With
kind?
him, I believe it was salmon. We used to go salmon fishing back in the day.
Oh.
So it was beautiful.
Really?
In the ocean. Gordon was like a good skipper. So, and, we caught sturgeon, which they were like 9-10 feet. So they were huge.
Yeah.
And
my husband caught one of those.
Yeah.
Like,
those are fun.
They always have that contest out there.
Oh, yeah.
And it was
Al. I think it's Al, or what's his name?
Yeah. I don't remember anymore.
It's like a company,
but it basically caught it like the week after, and he went out. He was very close with Vern, who used to have Vern's taxi here, who's since passed. And Vern took him out. Same kind of thing. Like, lucky to be on a boat with Vern.
Yeah.
This is some serious business.
Some
and he catches the biggest fish. Like, he caught it bigger than any contest winner for the past couple of years. But it was too late for the contest.
Yeah. People cheat there all the time. They freeze their sturgeon like 1 week before. And then they just take it back there. And then they unfreeze it in the water. They just put it in the water.
Wait, is this like they just unfreeze it?
Yeah.
It doesn't sink to the bottom. Isn't it dead?
No, it's dead, but all they do is they weigh it. They go and take the fish and be like, oh, this is what I caught today. But
is that for real?
Yeah, people do that. They're cheaters back there, man. I hate that place. Yeah, I used to do the contest. It was like a 3-day thing. It was like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So we used to camp over there underneath the 29 bridge. Me and my friends, we used to do like barbecues there.
Oh, that's hilarious. I love it. Little bridge living.
Yeah, I remember
bridge barbecues.
I was so into fishing. I used to fish like 7 days a week. And my wife one time reminded me, she's like, hey, you're married, right? And you got kids.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay. I'll take it down to 5 then.
That's really funny.
Yeah,
so, like,
I think she almost divorced me.
Yeah, I can see that.
She was like, dude, like every time we have something to do, you're like, yeah, we'll do it Saturday. And then Saturday comes, you're like, oh, my buddies are inviting me to go fishing. Sorry, honey.
Yeah, sounds like my husband and his band. And that's some quotation marks around there, folks.
So heavy on fishing. Gordon got me into fishing. He's my pal. Now he's a fair weather kind of guy. The weather has to be good for Gordon.
Gordon, God bless him. The other day, I'm setting up line dancing, right? We had that here a couple times during the month. And it was just so hot. It was too hot for me to even dance, right?
Yeah.
And he's sitting in the boiler room. It's the coolest place in this whole building, right? He's just like, I don't do this weather, you know?
Yeah, he doesn't like hot weather.
Yeah.
So I worked with him in 2002.
And you worked at El Pueblo.
And then I left in 2004 to go get married. And he knew everything about it. I remember when I came back to Petaluma, and after 2 years, I came back, and then I went to say hi to him. I was looking for a job, but I wasn't looking a job in Sonoma because it was kind of far from me and I didn't have a car. So I came down and say hello to a Pueblo Inn because they were really nice people at the time with me. So Gordon was there, and I remember saying, Gordon, I can see his face just light up. And then before I was leaving, he's like, hey, are you looking for a job? And I'm like, not here. He's like, no, you're working here. So he went in the office and he told the owners, like, they used to call me Grande. That was my nickname. He's like, Grande's back. So I want him in the payroll. And he's starting Monday. And I'm like, what? I'm like, I don't have a car. He's like, just get the bus. There's a bus that drives you, that drops you off here at the bus and at the plaza.
Right downtown in the plaza.
Yeah. And just walk down. I'm like, what? I'm like, all right, yes. I guess he needed somebody. I guess they went through like 17 people.
Yes.
They couldn't replace me. He couldn't find a guy that, did the work like I did it.
when did you get into like the restaurant business?
So I was already working at the restaurant.
Okay.
I started working in the restaurant when I was 13 years old.
Tell me about all the restaurants you have worked here in Sonoma.
I was
You don't have to rate them. I know there's a few duds.
I'm really loyal when it comes to people who treat me right.
Yeah.
I will stay with them for a long time. I'm that type of guy.
I'm glad. We're always nervous you're going to leave.
Yeah. So I started working when I was 12, I started working at the Little Switzerland washing dishes.
Uh-huh.
Because story goes that my mom couldn't afford to buy me a good pair of shoes, so I always get Payless. And Payless shoe store.
It was right there.
Yeah.
I know. I used to go to Payless.
Payless shoes, I had something in my feet that every time I did sports, it would sweat and be stinky.
Oh, yeah.
Stinky feet.
It's like a cheap plasticky is
and
what
I was in Altamira, and every time we had to do something indoors, we had to take our shoes off. I always to be sent to the principal because I didn't want to do it.
Oh, that's
because I knew my feet stink like Cheetos, So it was like
painful
Parmesan cheese,
middle school.
And then my oldest brother used to get Nikes all the time, and I'm like, well, and I don't know, it's always been his favorite, but that's fine. Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, Mom, she's like, well, if you want shoes, you need to work for them. So I was 12 at the time.
Yeah.
And then I remember I was riding my bike and I saw that the Switzerland was looking for a dishwasher. So I stopped by and he's like, hey, how old are you, kid? I'm like, I'm in high school. I was always been really big too. So he's like, well, I want your work permit. I'm like, I'll bring it. He's like, you can start Saturday because they only open Saturdays and Sundays.
Yeah.
Only if they had like an event on Friday, they open, So I remember, I'm like, all right. So I started washing dishes. And then from there, I started making salads. The guy who was running the kitchen, it was a small kitchen, really small kitchen. He's like, oh, I want to train you to a pantry to do salads and small thing. So I'm like, so I was washing dishes, making salad. And then when the guy was off, I used to cook because I knew all the recipes.
Yeah. Okay.
So when the guy didn't show up, I used to just take over and cook. So I did it for like a year. And then one of my friends was leaving General's daughter at the time. The General's daughter, he was doing salads there, and he was going back to Mexico.
Okay.
And he's like, hey, you want to take my place? They're going to look for somebody. And I'm like, yeah, sure. He's like, but you just have to lie. Like, you have to tell them that you're in high school. I'm like, all right. So I walked in there. I'm like, hey, really funny, true story. I walked in there, and the chef, who was Joe Vitale at the time, really cool guy, man. He was the best boss I ever had, in the kitchen. And he looked at me, and then he looked at one of the other cooks that was there, and he was big too. And he looked at me. He's like, okay. He's like, that guy's name is Grande. His nickname is Grande. You are a Grande guy. He's like, I can't be calling you Grande 1, Grande 2. So you guys need to do an arm wrestle and see whoever wins keeps the name.
No.
I beat that guy, and I was only 13 years old, and that guy was a grown-ass man.
You know that Petaluma is the arm wrestling capital of the world, right?
Yeah. So I beat that guy, call me Grande. That guy loved me. He's like, you're going to be making salads. After a year making salads and do pantry, not just salads, you do like appetizers and all that stuff. They sent me to the grill. And then from the grill, I started doing saute. And then that's how I started in the kitchen.
It's just all hands-on culinary experience.
You get the full experience there. They teach you everything.
Exactly.
So I worked for them for 10 years.
That's great.
And
I had quite a few friends that worked over there for Suzanne in front of the house.
Really fun. One of the best place I ever worked there. It was there.
Yeah.
And then from there, I moved around. I did a couple restaurants. There was a place called Tapas here. It was Cafe Andalucia, right where the Sonoma Grill is right now.
Yeah. I was there for a minute.
Yeah, it was for a minute.
It was good though. I remember eating there.
Yeah, Tapas. It was pretty good. Yeah. So I worked there too. I helped them open.
Right before the tapas craze was really happening.
So I worked there, and then, I went back I was working there and then working at the General's daughter. I always worked General's daughter and then another job. So, and then I was doing General's daughters in the night, and then I was working in the hotel in the morning. So I did it for 10 years.
Yeah.
And it was pretty cool, actually. Yeah.
Well, so during COVID, there's no work going on, right?
Yeah.
So did you fish a lot?
I did.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And then it was time to get a job. And I know that your position became because of a grant, right? Bilingual outreach coordinator. And
it was really funny.
We had some good applicants, and I was kind of it was like, let's interview these people. And I knew immediately when you came on, it was like me and Jill were all, that's the guy. I'm all, he's real. he's in touch with his community. We had some other people that are kind of like, oh, but it's ideas and concepts are one thing, but really being grassroots that can handle all ages, which you can, from kids to adults. You're just a people person. And that's really what it was all about.
Yeah, it was funny. So I spent like most of COVID fishing, fly fishing. My wife was working, and I remember when she came, I was doing Uber at the time, and I'm like, I don't want to do Uber with COVID and stuff. I remember she was like, well, I get paid enough now where you can stay home if you want to. And I'm like, are you sure? She's like, yeah, just go fly fishing, just cook, whatever, I'm like, all right. So I stayed home for 2 years. I did a lot of fly fishing.
Yeah.
And I remember she's like, hey, the Sonoma community is looking for somebody. It feels like that's your calling because you like helping people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you just don't want to see me here anymore. Okay, I see. I get it. Clink, clink,
No, but...
And I'm like, all right, I'll give it a try. So I sent my application, and then you guys called me and did an interview. And I didn't think I was going to get it, to be honest. And then they called me like, oh, you got the job. I'm like, all right, sweet. I didn't know what I was going to do, but,
Yeah, exactly. It was a little loosey. You're like, you're going to work some outreach events. You're going to do a little this and some translating and blah, 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 blah. And you're like...
Yeah, then my calling was like, I really like helping people. So when I got the chance, I'm like, dude, I want to do this. I really want...
Great
because
classes.
I really like to help people.
Yes, exactly. So. And just having a place for everyone to come to is important. There's a lot of breakdown in this town.
Yeah.
On the west side, people are not sit for years. They're not going to come all the way down here. But if you do have the right teachers in the community, they will explore it. Yeah. They will come down.
Yeah, and I have to admit, like, Charlotte was really good at the time. Our director, she was really nice, really friendly, a good person to work for too. I love her. So she's pretty nice. And now we got Vanessa, which she's amazing.
Yeah, always a good team.
Yeah, it was a good team.
Let's talk about, you kind of have some missions here too. I know the other places have tried to scout you and get you, and I'm all, no, that's my engagement team, husband.
Like I said, when I really like the workplace, I'm really loyal. I like to give back. So if you treat me right, of course I'm going to stay and work for you guys.
And what's some of the programs, what if you can do anything here? I know this is a big discussion always, and you've done a lot of culinary workshops, and you're kind of thrown in there after Elise had moved on.
Yeah, my friend Elise.
But
shout out.
Exactly. But still, you're there, and you're kind of running that kitchen for the most part.
Slowly but surely, hopefully we get more people in too. I'm always looking for instructors, so if you're out there and you want to come and show what you got, let me know, man. Like, we're always looking for people.
What do we have coming up? Tell us a little bit about how we're going to celebrate September.
So September is our...
how did Hispanic Heritage Month become?
So we're throwing in with some classes. We have the really good one that is on September 9th, which is going to be a tamale workshop. Come on, guys, tamales.
Yeah.
Everybody loves tamales. So
I do.
I want to see some signups. Come on, people. Come on, people. And it's family friendly too.
Is everything available right now?
Yes. Mm-hmm. So it's online. You guys can go and check it. And the classes are super cheap. So go online and check us out because they're cheap. Everybody can afford this. Also, we're going to do a chilaquiles breakfast, which is going to be September 16th, which is the Mexican Independence Day. And I want to make a really good chilaquiles breakfast.
Okay.
Everyone's going to enjoy it. So please sign up for those. Those are going to be amazing. I'm going to show you a way that I like to make
Saturday,
chilaquiles.
Right?
Yeah,
the
it's
16th.
Saturday.
What time is it?
I believe it's 10.
So it'd be perfect right before I'll be teaching kids at that time.
Yeah.
And I'll send them on down.
We're going to do a filled chilaquiles.
Tell me about that.
Yeah. So what you do is you get the tortilla. You make a tortilla like you're making a tortilla, like a tortilla. We're making everything from scratch here.
Amazing.
Okay. So it's like you're making a tortilla, and then what you do is you pretty much divide the tortilla almost like a quesadilla.
Yeah.
But on each side, you put meat. You can either put chorizo or carnitas and cheese, and then you fold it and make it like an empanada, and then you cut it like a chip, and then you fry it.
Oh, man.
So when you fry it, you get the cheese and the meat inside. So the chilaquiles, you add your salsa on top, your green salsa or your red salsa, and then you add it. So now when you cut it into it, it's going to be nice and filled.
Take that, polenta.
Yeah. Oh, polenta. Polenta is one of my favorite things to eat too.
I love polenta.
I love polenta. I do a creamy polenta.
Yeah, creamy polenta is good. And also, let's talk about the big
party.
one, the party on the 30th, right?
So on the 30th, we're planning right now, and it's going to happen, guys. So beware. We are going to cook a cochinita pibil, which is a Yucatan style, Mayan style pork. So what they do a hole in the ground.
Yeah.
So they cover it with like banana leaves and stuff like that, and they cover the thing for like 4 hours, 2 hours, and then you take it out. The meat just pulls out. Just
how does that work? I just don't know how. I mean, it's wrapped. It's in the ground.
Yeah. So what do you do?
I mean, let's go back. Who started that? Who figured out in the ancient times that putting a animal in the ground would preserve it if you wrap it up in? Who does that?
I'm pretty sure there was a lot of burns. I think a lot of pigs were wasted like that, because you have to have it like right on time. You have to test it 4 hours only, or 2 hours. Just depends the heat too. So,
I'm a nervous meat cooker.
And not only did they cover it with banana leaf, they actually cover the whole hole with the dirt that you take out.
Okay.
So there's nothing. It's almost like an oven in there.
So it's just a natural oven.
Natural oven.
Yeah. It had to be
good soil too. Good soil.
Really?
Yes.
That has like lots of nitrogen in it. That's kind of like
my cousin is from Yucatan, and I call him and like, hey, you want to come and do the cochinita pibil? He's like, are you doing the hole? I'm like, yeah, we're doing the hole. And then he's like, how's the soil? I'm like, what?
Exactly.
Why are you asking me about the soil? It's like the soil has a lot to do.
It's everything.
I'm like, all right.
It's like when you're growing vegetables and that kind of stuff. I can't figure out why soil.
We're going to try to do a hole. That's my thing. It's just we have some redwoods here, and I don't want to so
that can be a little
I have to
tricky.
Be careful, pipes and stuff. So it's kind of hard. Like hit the neighbor's pipe or something when I'm doing it. So I don't know if we're doing it in a hole, but we're definitely going to do cochinita style, which is the way you marinate it too. In Maya, they have this orange that is sour. So they use that orange to marinate their pork. It's a sour orange that they use. Agridulce, they call it. So, and because in Maya, their soil is so rich, they do a lot of citrus.
Okay.
So there's a lot of citrus growing in Maya, like in Cancun and stuff. They do like tangerines and lemons, limes, you name it. So oranges. So
that's another thing about Gerardo, your appreciation. I got a little fruit fly over here. Anybody wants to get Gerardo anything, fruit fly, he'll take any fruit.
Is the most amazing thing that I can have in the morning too. Because I grew up, like my grandma used to have guavas, mangoes, papaya. There's a green fruit that I don't know how you guys call it, but I know Asian people, they use it a lot in Asia. It's a green long one with a little tiny spikes.
Oh, what is that? That's not a jackfruit because that's a different.
Yeah, it's long. It's really long like this.
Yes, and spiky.
And in the middle is white. You tear like the fruit. We call it guanábana. I don't know how they call it over there, but I know they like maybe Philippines or Vietnamese, they have them too. But it's delicious. So I grew up eating fruit. That was my thing, fruit.
I want everybody to go online to SonomaCommunityCenter.org. It's great to talk to Gerardo. We will be celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month with all of these celebrations. And then we're also going to go after that into October on November 2nd. We are planning Dia de Muertos. So we'll have classes surrounding that. Jose Martinez, who will be our artist in residence, as well as we always have the altar in front, and Gerardo is leading us up in the dancers ballet folklorico Quesolan. Okay, we're talking Papana. I can't see. They're showing me something, but they forgot right before we started. Gerardo has a patch, and soursop?
Yeah.
Soursop. Okay. Yeah. My perspective on fruit is what can I use in a flower arrangement? I'm like, is it spiky?
We grew up eating fruit also different ways. Like we add tajin and salsa to our watermelon.
Yes, I noticed that,
which a lot of people, they think is gross because it's super sweet. Like,
it's actually rehydrating,
and
isn't it?
And it's delicious.
Yeah.
We eat a lot of jicama, cucumbers,
I love jicama.
Yeah, so anything, pineapple, we eat it. Even though after what happened to me when I eat pineapple, if I eat pineapple, I can't eat anything else because it tastes bland.
Yeah. Well, I love pineapple. I can't eat it anymore either. The vermilion at it it makes me have an acid situation. So, but that's enough,
But if you guys have like fruit trees and you guys don't want to see your fruit in the ground, just give me a call. Like it's the only time that I feel like a Mexican picking grapes over there and picking, fruit, I always tell my friend Jim has a bunch of plums, like sugar plums, elephant heart, and then, peaches. And I go out there and I just picking them and put them in my bag. I go home, wash them, and then I eat them. It's delicious.
Oh, Gerardo, I see how the story ends when you're older. It's like The Godfather. You're sitting in your garden, eating your fruit. Anyway.
Also, one person that really makes the best peach pie, and I have to give a shout out, is to my friend, Judge Cutler.
I know. I'm not going to lie. I wanted to bring him in here to help us interview you, Gerardo.
Yeah, he had a meeting.
But instead of probably like the hour and a half we're already at, it would have been 3 hours. So with that, I think we're going to bring it to an end. Yeah. And I just want to give it happy Hispanic Heritage Month. Yes. Thank you for sharing your story and stories about where you came from, where you going, and what you doing.
Thank you. My story would have been longer. It would be like a 6-hour thing or more. I have a lot of stories.
You got a lot of stories.
I have to admit, I really miss a guy from Sonoma. His name is Francisco, who just left. And he used to work in a radio station. And he had a great idea to go and talk to people who work in the vineyards and stuff and get their stories. And we really want to do that. I hope he comes back and we can continue that with him because I thought it was amazing just trying to get people's stories so people can listen. Not just my story, but everybody else's stories. There's so many stories here in Sonoma that people should listen. They're cool and fun. And
I agree. And I also think that you should lead up when you have the time. The kids are a little bit more established in school. He did Hello Sonoma, and I know you guys wanted to do Hola Sonoma. And there's definitely a need to have the voice of the majority of people that live here on the radio, on podcasts, and that sort of thing. So I can't wait to hear more.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Molly. Thank you, Tekashi.
All right.
Thank
you, Gerardo.